back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. These past few weeks, we've seen some big releases and events with the BTS members. I'm talking about V going to the Celine fashion show, J-Hope releasing Jack in the Box, J-Hope performing at Lollapalooza, and the collab with the BTS members and Benny Blanco and Snoop Dogg. But this past few weeks, I think we've seen a good amount of content, no big events really, but what I do like about this time is that we've seen all the members of BTS either individually or together working on something. So it's good to see updates from everybody. And they've got a lot of projects going on that are happening now or they're about to launch. So let's start with some Chapter 2 updates. On August 11th, there was an announcement that Jungkook was going to release a photo book, I guess is the main part of it. It's like a photo shoot, and there'll be a book, and there'll be, images available to view. And it's called Me, Myself, and Jungkook. And the initial pictures we got, it was kind of him looking very pale and in like a shadowy background. And right away you could tell that this was a vampire concept. At least that's what I think a lot of people guessed. Or a horror concept. That could have also fit what we saw. And later we saw that he had a concept film and a behind the scenes of that. And so he did say explicitly that it is a vampire concept. And he made it sound like all the members would have their own type of photo shoot to do, and it would be a theme that they decide. So we'll see in the coming weeks what the other members chose as their theme. I did see some funny memes once the Jungkook one was announced, and it's like people had scenes from just, very benign moments in Run BTS, but then they made it look like a horror movie poster. Like, for example, one I saw, it had J-Hope on the phone looking very worried, and it was from that time on Bon Voyage when the members pranked him by leaving him at the gas station by himself. And then on this fake movie poster, it showed, all the members from the Butter car wash photo shoot, and it's like they were all in black and white, and then J-Hope was in the upper part of the poster on the phone looking very worried. So it kind of looks like, they're coming after him in a horror movie. So I thought that was pretty funny. I saw another one where Jungkook was edited in with a family picture of the vampire family from Twilight, like all the people that are in that. I guess there's a poster that shows all of their faces, and then they just added Jungkook to it. So that was pretty funny. And there was a concept film called Time Difference, and you could for sure see the vampire elements on that. He's got the typical, like ruffled shirt, white shirt, and he had a brooch that fastens it at the top. And so he's kind of going for, I think there's a couple of different ways to represent vampire, but, a lot of times people will have that interview with the vampire motif, and you're basically dressed kind of like it's the 1800s, and, very fancy shirt for a man. Like, if you remember the movie Interview with the Vampire, it's like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt were the vampires, and that's how they dressed, and they lived in New Orleans in a very old house. Yeah, so the concept film definitely had that theme, and it was coming through pretty clear. So I think they did a good job translating that, his idea. And there's also a part of the concept film where there's like a modern looking Jungkook who's just wearing a jacket, and he's kind of looking at vampire Jungkook. So I don't know if that means there's two two of him, there's two characters, or if it's just, they live a long time. So as a vampire, he's remembering, the past times. And I think, I don't know what else they're doing with this other than producing a photo book that people can buy and, have a film out there that shows this vision. I guess it's a way for them to be creative too and come up with something that represents each member individually. So, that does have to do with chapter 2 projects in that they're trying to show different sides of themselves. And just recently there was the announcement about RM's photo book, and his is called Entirety, Me, Myself, and RM. And it says, this photo book captures the essence of the multifaceted individual that is RM and includes RM's special item, 2 bookmarks. And so far we don't really have any other information on that, but it looks like kind of what you would expect from RM, just very art focused, like black and white photos. And I think there'll be an element of nature in there. At least that's what I could tell from the initial teasers. So we'll see how his concept film turns out, if it has more of a theme that we can discuss. Because I'm not sure what they mean by entirety. It doesn't immediately translate to anything for me other than, he's a very well-rounded person, and we know that he is. So we'll see more on that in the coming weeks, I'm sure, as well as the other members with their concepts. And speaking of RM, they also announced that he will be featured on a new Balming Tiger track called Sexy New Kim. And the release date for that is going to be September 1st. So that's great to see that RM has some music that he had been working on, or, who knows how long ago this was recorded, but definitely it was part of this new time period where they can focus more on their own individual projects. And we'll see how this song turns out. I'm not that familiar with this artist, but I'm assuming it's kind of a hip-hop, rap type of artist, and looking forward to hearing that. On August 14th, RM and J-Hope were spotted out at the Billie Eilish concert in Seoul, and they had posted some videos and photos. Well, RM and J-Hope, they posted some photos, and I think it was like fans and other outlets that had some video of them at the concert, and it looked like they were really having a good time as they, danced and sang along to Billie Eilish's songs. And at one point, J-Hope was singing along, and J-Hope was like moshing out to one of the songs. And I know that she has some of her music is like very hard hitting, I guess, or rock-esque. It's hard to define Billie Eilish music. I don't really get it. I've tried to listen to her albums just because, it's so popular. Let me see what this is all about. But just can't get into it. It's not pop music, really. It's not that catchy to me. And it's very different and unique. So, she must be doing something right if she's selling out venues in foreign countries like South Korea. So I'm sure there's a market for people who love Billie Eilish music. But it was great to see RM and J-Hope out having a good time at a concert. And I feel like this year we've seen BTS members go to like more concerts than we've ever seen in like the previous, 8 to 10 years or whatever. So I'm glad that they're able to share this experience with just regular Billie Eilish fans and attend things and just have fun. I'm sure they didn't have a lot of time to do that when they were up and coming as a group and working on making it in the music business. So that's great. And we saw some pictures. They took they met up with Billie and her brother Phineas backstage, and there was a fun photo scene that was posted to, I guess, the members' Instagrams. So glad to see that they are having a good time. And seeing RM and J-Hope at the Billie Eilish concert got me thinking, what if they proposed a collaboration? And I don't know how exactly they would do that, just with how unique Billie Eilish's music is. I don't know how easily you could integrate BTS members and their type of music with hers, but I'm sure they could find a way to work with anybody, because BTS members are very good at working with Western artists and finding that common ground and that music that works with these other artists. And I was also wondering, like, what is stopping the BTS member solo albums from having collaborations? Because we know with J-Hope's album, Jack in the Box, he didn't have any collabs, but most likely that's because his songs were already mostly complete or already in the works, and he didn't have time to try to integrate other artists, or maybe he didn't want to. That I'm sure that's part of it too. It's his solo album. He didn't necessarily want other voices on there kind of defining how it was portrayed or taking away attention from him expressing his musical vision with the album. So, I mean, it could be a choice, but it could be that, J-Hope didn't have time to integrate anything special like that. But, I'm sure he's very satisfied with how his album turned out, and I don't think a collab necessarily makes an album better. I was just thinking that BTS members, they've made a lot of new connections this year, and in the past few years, as they've gotten so popular, they've met a lot of artists, Western artists, and other producers and artists who are fans of theirs that I'm sure are making all sorts of proposals. So it seems like it's possible for that to be utilized, these relationships that they're forming. But, that's to say that they want to have that, because it could be that the members believe that the solo albums should have zero or few collabs, just so that you can ensure that that member's voice is heard, and it's all their vision. So we don't know if they have some kind of overall plan, like, okay, nobody has collabs, or you could have a collab if you want to, if that fits with what you're doing for your album. So I don't think they're totally against it, because we know that Suga's past albums did have some collabs. For example, he had a song with Max, and he had some Korean singers and rappers on his songs. But, it all seemed to fit with Suga's albums, and it fit with the song appropriately. I don't think they're just trying to load up on collabs just to, have a lot of big names on there. Like, just to compare, like Tony Bennett, he often had an album series where, like, the entire album is collabs. It's like him and one other person who's famous. And, the whole purpose of that album was the collabs. So it's going to, of course, attract a lot of that other artist's fans to check out your album when you have them in there. And then, a lot of fans of Western artists, they don't know that much about BTS. So that could be a big way to introduce their music to them. Just based on some of the relationships they've made this year, I could see like V working with people like Lady Gaga or Lizzo, or he had met John Batiste at the Grammys. He's a big fan of Troye Sivan, and Troye Sivan has already worked with them in songwriting, so maybe he would be interested in doing a feature as well. There's also Benny Blanco. I'm sure he's would be open to a solo project with them. Jungkook, maybe he's got another song to work on with Charlie Puth, or I could see Jungkook with Justin Bieber or Ariana Grande even. We know he's big fans of them. Jungkook also met the rapper Pink Sweats at I think it was a jazz music festival in Korea, so clearly he knows him, and maybe they've got something going on. And, Snoop Dogg, Khalid, these are other artists that have worked with BTS before, and they'd also be open to another song with them, on a solo project. And I could also see, Jimin working with Ariana Grande or Cardi B. I know she's a Jimin bias, so that would work out. I think Cardi B would totally be open to that. Jimin's also Benny Blanco's bias, so I'm sure he'd be open to that too, like some other song. And Lizzo, I think all the members, there's a couple of them that met Lizzo at the Harry Styles concert, so I'm sure she is for sure open to working with them, and maybe already has something in the works. There's also her. She had met up with BTS in DC when they were there to speak to the UN this past time. I think that's when that was. So she socialized with them, and remember she opens for Coldplay on their tour. And so, you've got all this connections going on there. So I could definitely see some of the solo albums possibly having a collaboration on there, and at least one, and I'm sure they wouldn't want it to dominate their album. It's probably, if they do it at all, it'll be like one or two on an album. And I could also see, Billie Eilish or Phineas. Maybe they would fit best with an RM solo song, or, it'd be cool as RM featuring Chris Martin. That would be something to see. And because I know Chris Martin, he totally does collabs. If you remember, he did a song with Kanye West, the song Homecoming, which is a pretty good song, and I think it could be a similar dynamic, RM being a rapper and then featuring Chris Martin. So, they have a lot of possibilities there. And let's not forget Megan Thee Stallion, who worked with them on Butter Remix. I'm sure she's open to it again. I think anybody who works with BTS, they love the success they've seen already, and so they are going to keep the door open for, another song at some time in the future. And I think we'll see more of that, especially on the later albums, because I think the earlier albums, like whoever is the next to release their solo album, maybe they wouldn't have had as much time to incorporate something like that. But I definitely think at least some of the albums are going to have some major collabs on them. V and Jennie from Blackpink dating rumors have resurfaced. There's some new photos you may have seen that are going around Twitter that supposedly show them together as a couple. And if you remember, this all started because there was some photo that looked like it was the two of them in a car heading to Jeju Island. And I don't think we ever figured out what was really going on in those photos. Was it them going somewhere? Was it look-alike people? Was it a Photoshop? We never really found out. But it sounds like this week there's some new photos that came out. They're kind of coming from the same person, all the ones that are circulating right now. So I think just that in itself is kind of suspicious. But, we'll evaluate this whole situation. And if you haven't seen them, the photos there's a couple of them that people are bringing up. One of them is Jennie taking a selfie, and it looks like V is in a room getting his hair and makeup done, and he's wearing the tiger print shirt and slacks outfit that he wore, the outfit that he wore when he was going to the airport to go to France for the Celine fashion show. So if it was that day, and because I don't think V is wearing an outfit more than one day ever. So if it was that day, then it would have to be Jennie was there when he was getting his hair and makeup done before going to the airport. So that's one photo. And then there's another one where Jennie had a Instagram story of pictures of gifts she got for her birthday, and she blacked out the background of it, but you could still kind of see reflecting in the balloon, like wherever she was when she got those gifts. And some people think that was V's apartment. And on that photo, I think it's very hard to interpret it because it's a reflection, and it's in the balloon. So people like zoomed way in on the balloon to try to see, oh, let's see how this apartment is laid out. It's like you can barely see anything. And the other thing is, anytime I see K-pop idols' apartments, they seem to all look exactly the same. Like they all have the same like recessed lighting or whatever. They all have like white walls. They all have like, white furniture or dark furniture. It's like they all have kind of the same style. So it's very hard to say, well, this is definitely V's apartment. And we don't even know really what the inside of V's apartment looks like. There's people that have seen in photos, he's taken pictures in there. So, I mean, people have seen parts of it, but he probably has a very large apartment and it looks a lot like other people's apartments. So I honestly think you cannot say where something takes place just from a reflection in a small part of a photo. So I think that really doesn't count as any kind of evidence. And the other photo that's going around is that V and Jennie taking a selfie in a mirror, and this is supposedly taking place in a hallway in V's building. And people have determined, yes, that is the hallway in V's building, but they have not determined that Jennie was actually there, or if this is a real photo and not a Photoshop. So the thing is, like, all of these photos going around, you really can't trust them, because if you've been on Twitter long enough, you know that people can make an edit for anything. Like there's people shipping two of every kind of idol, and they'll make pictures of them that look like, oh yeah, they're in a relationship, and it looks very realistic. And so it's almost impossible to trust something that's just floating around out there that didn't come right from one of the idols. So right away, I'm just skeptical of all these like quote unquote leaked photos. And if they're being leaked, it would be coming from Jennie's side, because these are all selfie photos. So it's either somebody has hacked her phone, or if she sent these photos out to somebody, or like her close friends, and then those people leaked it out for whatever reason. I don't know why her close friends would do that. It doesn't seem like that would happen. Like, she would know who to trust by this point in her life, So I'm already skeptical, just the fact that pictures coming from just a random Twitter account. Like, how do you trust that source? And I think it could definitely be just some shipper who loves the idea of Jennie and V together, and so they've photoshopped these very realistic looking photos and put them out there just to like cause some chaos. And I know a lot of people on Twitter were looking into this, and people have their techniques to try to debunk photos, like if they can recognize what photos were used that were, put back together into a photo, then that's one way to do it. But I think they haven't been able to determine source photos for everything. But then I thought, okay, well, if this is photos from Jennie that were then photoshopped, it could be that some Sasaeng has gained access to Jennie's phone or her iCloud or something like that and found some exclusive photos to use. Or it could be, and this is like a conspiracy, but I'm sure YG has access to Jennie's phone too, and maybe they had her provide some photos that have never been seen by anybody that are just her in them, and they have like provided it to some people to edit V in, and then tried to leak that anonymously. Because you have to look at Blackpink has an album coming out, and even dating rumors with a very famous member of BTS and very popular person, that's going to help create some buzz for their album. And you could say, oh, well, why isn't Big Hit or Hybe saying anything about it? It's like, you can't just call out other companies for stuff like this publicly. This is something you would try to handle behind the scenes, and maybe they've done that. Maybe they said, hey, if that's what you're doing, you need to stop, or otherwise we'll have to take some legal action. Because Hybe has no problem doing that when there's people spreading lies or rumors, and if it's just some random YouTuber or a shipper, they have no problem dealing with those people. But if it's something that a company is doing, then maybe they want to handle it a different way. But they're not gonna announce like, hey, they are not dating and this is all lies from YG. They wouldn't do that. They would try to handle it their own way. And I mean, I just think the timing overall is pretty suspicious. Bunch of rumors come up just when Blackpink has a lot of promotion that they're doing, and I think that it's coming from an anonymous Twitter account. We don't know who this person is. It's just an account that this is all they posted, basically, is some like supposedly leaked footage. And and like I said, the people on Twitter, they have examined these photos, and they did I'm not technical about it, but they've done all these tests where it's like, oh, if you increase the brightness a lot, this happens, or if you say remove background, this happens. And then they've done those tests, and it looks like the Jennie part of it disappears, or the coloring doesn't match up, which indicates it's edited. So I mean, I think the consensus now with Twitter is that these photos were all edited, and they aren't evidence that V and Jennie are dating. But, these things look very realistic, and I'm sure there's people that aren't paying that close of attention to everything, that they saw, some all K-pop articles, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess these two people are dating then, and they're just believing that. But, it's always very difficult because any rumors about K-pop idols, they spread like wildfire, and it's very difficult to try to get the truth out. Another thing that's going on is that the VMAs are happening soon, and they are taking place in New York. And, Blackpink is nominated. I believe BTS probably also is nominated. I haven't paid attention, but I'm assuming they are. But Blackpink is performing there for sure, and they're heading over to New York this week. But at the same time, V is going to New York, and so some people are taking that as, oh, well, he's going over there to hang out with Jennie, as they're going to be on the VMAs. But what we've been told is that V is going to New York on a personal schedule. So, I mean, I don't, who knows what personal means? That could mean he's meeting up with some people that are going to be in New York maybe also going to the VMAs. It could be he's meeting up with other artists. He's just there for vacation. Anything could be happening in New York. It's a very bustling city with a lot of things going on. And we saw that he arrived at the airport to leave for New York, and he brought his golf clubs with him. So I think that tells you at least what he's going to be doing for some of the time. He's going to have some nice golf games and check out probably the best golf courses that are in that area. So I think he's probably there for fun stuff. There's no indication that he's there for, being there by Jennie's side, or even if he's going there to record music. It seems like he's just going there for leisure purposes from what we know right now. So I think some people thought that's another sign that they're together. It's like, okay, people go to big cities all the time, especially K-pop idols, and the ones that are popular internationally, they are going to the same cities all the time. It's like LA, New York, I don't think that is proof of anything. And I mean, they could very well be dating. I'm not against that or trying to disprove that in any way. I just don't think we've seen the evidence of it, and I don't think we should assume anything that hasn't been announced by the people involved themselves. So I think if we could just not create a frenzy over stuff like this, it would be so much better for idols. If they're trying to date, I'm sure people are dating. It's just we need to not create a whole media circus whenever these kind of rumors come up. And I'm sure you listeners are aware of this. It's just, some of the crazed fans on Twitter and, other social media that let this get out of hand. So I think you and I know, let's be responsible when it comes to news that you're seeing or pictures you're seeing, and just believe it when it's an official source. This week we had some good OT7 content. We saw the return of Run BTS, which hasn't aired for 10 months. And it's like, wow, time really went fast since the last episodes. But, they aired 2 new episodes recently, and I think it was great to see that they used the new Run BTS song for the credits and the new pictures from Proof. And, they've updated the credits. It looks really cool. Hopefully they've got more Run BTS episodes coming. I don't know how many they taped at a time, but we've seen 2 episodes so far. It was called, Telepathy Part 1 and Part 2. And the game involved, at first they did a short game of, they had to guess some phrases and say them in order by member, and there were 7 of them sitting in a row, and then each person guesses their letter. So that seemed kind of difficult because you had to be all thinking of the same phrase, and I guess that's why they called this episode Telepathy, because a lot of it is trying to predict what the other members were going to say, like what were their answers, and that helps you with your answer. So they did that game to start with. It seemed like it was pretty difficult. And then the next game, they all got frog blindfolds, which made them all look pretty funny. And they were put in separate cars, and they received clues, like a 1-word clue, and that would tell them where they need to go. And they all had to try to go to the same locations. And it was taking place within Seoul. But as I understand it, that's a pretty big area, because there were some members, they were, in their car for 25 minutes. So it seems like it's potentially a large distance that could be covered within the Seoul area. And So their first keyword for this telepathy game was real fun. And I'm glad I am not playing this game, because I would be like, I have no idea what that means. Like, real fun could mean anything. Like, you have fun in a lot of different places, a lot of different ways, doing different things. And then you're talking about 7 people, different people's idea of fun. I mean, I'm surprised they did as well as they did. So in this first round, with the clue being real fun, most of them went to their old dorm. So I think it was 4 of them. V, Jin, Jimin, and RM went to one place. And then J-Hope went to Olympic Stadium. Suga went to the Han River. And Jungkook went to Lot World. So, I mean, I think that was not bad. 4 of them going to one place to represent real fun. Yeah, I would have thought an amusement park would be under the category of real fun, but maybe the real fun means something specific to the BTS members, and that's why 4 of them all went to the one dorm. So it must have been like a lot of fun times that they're remembering from that living there. And a lot of these 2 Run BTS episodes was them kind of thinking back to old times or times as a group, like especially very early on. So I appreciated that aspect of these 2 episodes. And then the second clue, the keyword was salty, meaning mad, when someone's salty about something. So I think most of them went to the same place. They went to a practice room. And I think we still had J-Hope and Jungkook and Suga kind of having different thoughts about what that meant. And I think that the third keyword was army. And at that point, they all went to Olympic Stadium except for V, who he went to their first showcase venue. So I don't know. I think, the keyword army, that could mean so many different things, but I guess to most of the members of BTS, that meant performing at the large stadium. So I think that made sense. They also brought up, a lot of the fights they had as part of their memories, the banana incident, the dumpling incident, which Army knows all about what happened there. And I think that's so funny that that's part of the BTS lore, is like these times that they fought, and it always had to do with food. These famous incidents. So I enjoyed seeing the whole group together again. I was glad to see, some OT7 content. And the game itself, though, I was not impressed by it. I didn't understand, like, how exactly you play it, or is there a way to win? Like, okay, yeah, we want everybody to go to the same place, but it's like, if they didn't, then who cares? Like, there wasn't really a structure to this game, it seemed like. But they just wanted them to be driving to different places from BTS's past, which, okay, I can appreciate that concept, but I think they could have come up with a much better way to have them go to all these places. Like, it should have been a scavenger hunt or like an amazing race kind of challenge where, they either work individually or in teams, and, they get a clue and it's like, this place is where blah, blah, blah. And, they go to that place and then they do a task at that place. Like, for example, they get a clue to go to that restaurant, this famous restaurant that they always ate at when they were trainees. And it's like, okay, order the noodles and eat it, and then, go to the next location. And then, the next location is Lot World. It's like, okay, once you're at Lot World, go on a ride or something, and then, okay, the next clue tells you to go to the Han River. Well, bike from here to here, and or row a boat from here to here. And then, whoever completes all the tasks, and maybe there's like 3 or 4 of them, they get a prize. So I think that would have been a lot better to make it like The Amazing Race. But, maybe they didn't have like tons of time to figure out how they wanted this game to go. They just needed to film something. But yeah, I think that would have worked out a lot better. My suggestion. On August 16th, MapleStory posted the first episode of what they are calling Office Warrior Kim Seukjin, and they released the second episode the following week. And the premise of these episodes were that Jin would be interviewing as a new intern for the MapleStory programming team. And it showed how he went to the interview. He, answered some questions. He had a desk and he opened up his intern kit. He took a ID photo, and then he interacted with the director of the department and his mentor. And so the first episode was all of this kind of introductory stuff and like interviewing and, going to his cubicle. And I just wasn't sure where this content was going. Like, was he like really trying to work there, or was it supposed to be funny, or was it just meant to show, oh, here's a day of what it looks like to work at the MapleStory place? Because, I'm sure they have tons of fans and people that are curious about what it's like to work there, the same way that people, I don't know what the famous games are, right now, but like, the offices of, Fortnite, what do those people do on a daily basis? Do they have like a really, really cool workplace and stuff like that? So I don't know if it was meant to be like promoting game more, or just to show like, oh, look at this famous fan, Jin, and he's like having fun, having some input in the game, and, being the voice for a lot of the fans, like things that they've criticized about it. Because the second episode was all about, Jin had this whole PowerPoint presentation, and he had like so many slides, and he talked about the things that fans don't like about the game, all these little things and all of these bigger things. Like, he was very specific, and I was like, wow, he took this like so seriously. It's like he was actually trying to be a worker there. So it wasn't like super funny, but it was just kind of like, it was fun, and to see him giving his suggestions, and it looked like the people took it all very seriously, and they were making some notes. And I think it was, I was just so surprised that he put so much preparation into this. Like, there's a PowerPoint, and they had like many very specific ideas. You could tell for sure he plays this game and he knows it like front and back. And he had like a lot of very good suggestions, like things they could actually do, like, not things that are like, well, here's a way to, here, you need to completely change the rules in this section. It's like, no, it was like, here's what you can do to improve this map, or here's some other ideas for like the mini games that can be inside the game. Here's something we can do for Chuseok Party. He had some, they probably have like seasonal events that happen in the game, and so he had some suggestions about that, as well as like special outfits. Like, you can have the Jin pajamas, like from his artist made merch, which, I'm sure people would be interested in that as a skin, or, that's something you win in the game. So he had like a lot of pretty good ideas. It seemed like, I thought it was just so funny, like just how much passion he put behind his ideas. Like, maybe this was just meant to be, just show up, and, the whole point of it is, Jin, member of BTS, promoting MapleStory. But it's like he took the job so seriously. It was like that in itself was more funny than I think it was intentionally trying to be. And I don't think any of this was scripted. It was just like Jin's part was, that's what he wanted to present to them. And I think the Maple Story folks, it's just like they were just there to like, okay, let's hear you out on these ideas and we'll give you some feedback. So it didn't seem like a comedy skit as far as like, oh, they had things that they were gonna say and it was all scripted out. So it just seemed like, let's film this, see where it goes. Jin presented his ideas. I think he's just unintentionally funny. He just, the way he is so passionate about the game and all of his like very specific like gamer suggestions. And on Weverse afterwards, there was an army that said like, wow, that was such a professional presentation. And they said, you should definitely work there, Jin. And then Jin goes, he got kicked out of the company because he asked for a salary similar to his big hit salary. So I thought that was a funny little, ending coda to all this. And of course, he would aim for a big salary, and he would aim for being the CEO of, I think it's Nexion is the name of the company. And it's like, he wants to be completely in charge. He's not going to be just some cog in the wheel. So I think whatever Jin ends up doing for his solo projects, I love that we are seeing like his unique stamp on things. And we know he has such a strong connection to gaming and cooking as well. We'll probably see something that has to do with that on the way to his solo album. So I think we're all looking forward to the content that's coming up. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Check out the merch store with BTS-themed tees, hoodies, and more, linked in the description, as well as on the BTS Happy Hour Facebook page. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.